Hi.
Hello, welcome to another episode.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Episode 2.
episode 2 actually.
Cedian
Yeah,
Alchemy.
Obsidian Alchemy. Yeah, we done the first episode already. You can catch up to it, or it's on YouTube.
Yeah,
It's on
the
YouTube.
previous episode before this one.
Yeah, it's on YouTube. So today we're back with episode 2.
Self-mastery as a path to surrender.
Surrender. Yeah, and we'll break it down. We're basically just going to have a conversation, just gist, and we're breaking it down with
Into 3 parts: the ego,
Yeah.
the true self, and then we'll talk about self-mastery.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the ego. What is the ego? Now, the ego is the part of the mind that is responsible for reality testing. It mediates between your conscious and unconscious mind. That's the part of your mind that seeks to identify you, that seeks to identify us with something. So when you say, I am, I'm a bother. Whatever comes after that is a function of the ego. And most of the time, it actually reflects the things that you hold in high esteem or the things that you think are beneath you. So that is the function of the ego. It is a collection of your beliefs, your desires, your ideas, your fantasies, that which the mind has put together to create your image of self, your identity, the I, your I, your I that exists in this world. And there are many spiritual practices that refer to like the dissolution of the ego, like this ego death. You've heard of the ego death that people talk about, and sometimes even treating the ego like the enemy. I don't think the ego is the bad guy.
Oh, I don't think so too.
Exactly. In my opinion, the ego is not your enemy, and the ego will always seek to identify itself with something. You can't say that, oh, I killed my ego. So eventually your ego will identify with the fact that, oh, you managed to kill your ego while other people did not. That is still the function of the ego.
I swear.
And a loss of your current, so the ego death is the loss of your current or subjective self-identity. That is when people say they've experienced an ego death, maybe you used to prioritize, being able to clap back when somebody says something, and then your ego death will come when you realize that you have ascended beyond the need to clap back. That is an ego death. So you have a period when that happens where it literally feels like you don't know who you are anymore. That is the ego death. But that transition, that phase, is still a function of the ego. The ego cannot be killed. So I think when they say ego death, they don't necessarily mean it as an outright death, more like an ego transition.
Yeah, like a metamorphosis.
Yep. And the ego will never cease to find an identity. The new version of yourself will slowly become its identity too. Thinking you've done anything with the ego outside of learning, mastering, and becoming its friend will always lead to an ego trap. So the ego is not your friend, guys. It's not your enemy, guys.
I swear.
The ego is your friend.
I think to an extent the ego is a function of yourself.
It is.
Like it's a function of yourself, of who you are, because it stems from your beliefs, your self-concepts, things that matter to you, things that give you that sense of definition while navigating the world. So to be without your ego is to be without self.
Exactly.
I swear. I swear. All right, so I'll be talking on the true self. Yeah, the true self. And if I want to define the true self, I'm just going to be like straightforward with it. To me, in my definition, the true self are the versions of us that we keep in check to preserve relationships, connections. The true self is found in places where you feel like in order to be big, you have to play small. To me, I think the true self are the versions of us that if you leave that version of you to navigate this world, like without putting it in check, it's going to leave a target on your back. And living as your true self, don't let anybody deceive you. It's expensive.
It's a lot of work.
Painful.
That's right.
You have to be ready to be turned down, walked out on, in order to be your true self. And this, I don't mean to say this like it's a bad thing, but I mean to say this that like it's a state of ascension, and not every mind can conceive the reality that you are living from. As being your true self, you're not living based on the physical plane, the physical realm. You're living based on the spiritual realm. And if you are living from that place, you're living from spirit. Everything is possible, everything is available. So it can make you like tiring to be around and stuff. And to me, your true self is tied with your identity of yourself. You get? So if your identity should be drawn from spirit. Yeah, your sense of identity should come from a realm that cannot be altered. Identity shouldn't be from what you do, but from who you are as a spirit, not necessarily as a person.
Sorry, would you say the true self is your shadow self?
Yeah, I would say the true self is your shadow self. That part of you that you feel like has to tone down, has to, let's say, be quiet. That part of you that is too powerful. You just have to.
Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
Why is the shadow self considered the true self and not other parts of you that make up yourself?
Okay, to me, I think the shadow self is the part of you that hasn't been conformed to the rules and regulations of the world.
Society.
Your shadow self is the part of you that hasn't been tampered. It hasn't been told you have to do this to be this. You have to achieve this to get this. You have to do.
So the shadow is not always like a negative thing.
No.
It could just be the parts of you that you feel like you need to hide.
Yeah, the parts of you feel like
to get what you want from the world.
Yeah, to get. But the funny thing now is that you don't necessarily need to hide that part of you to get what you want from the world. Like there's a way you harness. There's a way you work and you alchemize everything that will bring everything you're supposed to go after and bring it to you.
Basically integration, which is what leads to self-mastery.
Yeah, which leads to self-mastery. Yeah, you get it. Yeah, and a disconnection from our true spiritual selves is the recipe for an unanchored self-concept. This makes when you are not rooted in your spiritual self, when you have no roots going down, you start to believe anything and everything about yourself. And most times it's not even believing good things or believing beneficial things. You believe very backward kind of things because you have no spiritual truth about yourself. You don't believe that you are a creator. You don't believe that you are bigger than this realm. You don't believe that you come from a place where there is all sufficiency, so you start to believe negative rubbish talks about yourself because you are not rooted in anything. And by this I don't even mean you have to be rooted in Bible scriptures, you have to be rooted in whatever Gandhi said. No, you have to just be able to sit with yourself. There's this thing I call spirit-wide meditation. You try to shut off your mind and open your spirit, like open it from your heart and live from there.
So you're saying essentially that your self-concept, the self-concept that is actually integrated, is gotten from spirit.
It's gotten from spirit, I swear. Because spirit has all truth. It has all knowledge. Living from that place would be like you're walking on water in reality. And the average mind cannot conceive what you are up to. So they probably think you're onto some BS like that, But no, you actually hacked it. You actually hacked it. So identity should be drawn from spirit. It shouldn't come from a realm that can be altered and changed. And self-mastery isn't in mastering what you do, but in mastering who you are in order to be like your true self. So don't fall to the trap that in order to be my true self I have to
become a doctor.
this, I have to become a doctor, I have to become a lawyer.
That's the function of the ego. The ego is fickle.
Like that.
Yeah.
So it's your true self boils down to who you become over time. Yeah, not in the actions you carry out. Actions bring result, but your true self is what brings that trying to be your true self is what brings that transcendence. Yeah. So it's not necessarily what you do, it's who you embody.
Yeah.
You know, like shedding your old skin.
Yeah.
Being your true self is going to be hard, and I think a practice that would be beneficial to being your true self is to practice essentialism.
What is that?
You know, essentialism is because I read it is from a book by Greg Wong. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. It's the practice of focusing on the vital few over the trivial many. In this case, the vital few are the things that benefit your spirit. The trivial many are the things that are like the hamster wheel of life, the things that
running around every day.
Running around every day. So in order to be your true self, you need to focus on things that minister to your spirit, things that speak to your soul, you know, things that open your mind and your brain to new realms, higher realms, prioritization of things that feed and build you from the inside out. Because the journey of self-mastery, your true self, it's more internal than external.
Yeah.
You know, so you are going inside you.
Yeah.
Not necessarily coming outside. Yeah.
Okay, so are we going to self-mastery now?
Yeah.
Okay, so for self-mastery, I broke it down into 3 parts.
Yeah.
We have the physical, the metaphysical, spirit or true self, as you just talked about, and the emotional. The ego usually, not all the time, the ego usually is in charge of the physical self. That's why the bigger the ego, the more a person wants to seem refined on the outside. I mean, people can seem refined on the outside and not have the biggest ego too. I'm just saying, a healthy ego will most likely push you to also, you know, show it physically, which is the most common one in the world. People want to seem polished, people want to seem refined, beautiful stuff, but most of the time people stop there, people end there, which I think is why the world is the way it is. So the physical body, basically, mastering the physical self involves, you know, the things we do every day, working out, as you said, it's trivial for you and the essential. Physical body, working out, eating right, that's the most common type of mastery in the 3D. That's the human beings are very focused on the things you can see. So everybody wants to master looking good to, you know, basically mask the true self at the end of the day. Because the true self is not ugly or beautiful. It is just the true self. It is just what it is. And then we have the metaphysical, which you talked about. That's the spirit's true self. And then we have the emotional. This one I want us to talk about it like briefly, because I think that for most human beings, at least me, emotional mastery is one of the hardest things, especially when you do not have the faculty for emotional regulation and to master your emotions. You need to be able to regulate it to a certain extent. It's one of my biggest challenges in life. It's been one of the things that I have learned over time to master my emotions. Should I spaz out? Should I crash out? Should I... Yeah, because I'm talking about how emotional mastery is one of the toughest ones for most people. People that are not raised to have emotional regulation. People that naturally do not, you know how to regulate their emotions. It's why people crash out. It's why wars happen. It's why people fight. It's why people break up. It's emotional mastery. So I'm asking, like,
how I master my emotion. Okay. Well, I think
you have a hang on it to a certain extent.
Yeah, to a certain extent, I have a hang on it, but internally, sometimes that's where I'm still in the process.
So you crash in.
I crash in. I don't necessarily crash out. You know, because I have ADHD, executive dysfunction. Before I can be like, you know, like my brain doesn't work like that. So instead of my brain being like execution appropriate.
Yeah.
It's go inside and then the crash out is in my head, in my brain. But I think it's still it's a daily process. Now eventually we'll be able
to, a lot of work.
we'll be able to get a hang of it, because it's not necessarily things you do that affect you. You could just be on your own and catch one.
You're picking up on somebody's energy.
Catch one stray bullet, and then before you know, you are a mess on the inside and everything like
so
that.
at the end of the day, emotional mastery is consistent work. You have to
work.
every moment to master your emotions.
Yeah, every moment the opportunity presents itself, is an opportunity for you to master it.
Your emotions.
I swear.
Okay, so here I wrote practical ways to master self. And I wrote here your self-knowledge, your self-concept, and your self-trust. These are things that are important to build to master yourself. Self-knowledge is basically to know yourself. And to know yourself, you have to sit with yourself. And when you sit with yourself, that's when you start to recognize, oh, this is my ego talking. This is my true self talking. This is blah, blah, blah. And then the self-concept, that's the overall idea. We were talking about it previously. The overall idea you have of yourself, who you've built yourself to be. And then self-trust is when you get to know yourself and you start to understand yourself. You know your whys, you know the things you won't do, you know that, okay, no matter what, I'll draw a boundary here. So I can go, there are things that I feel like sometimes we limit ourselves because we don't trust ourselves. And when you start to know yourself and you understand your self-concept, the idea of who you want to be or who you are working to be, you start to trust yourself, because you can set boundaries. You know that, okay, I won't do this, so it's fine. I can just, try. Like, let me give an example. I don't want to go to a party because they're sharing drugs there.
I swear.
You get to a point where you're like, okay, my friend invited me to this party and I want to show up. Because I trust myself enough, I'm not going to show up past 2 hours and leave if they're sharing anything I don't want to participate in. Exactly. So that's like self-trust comes with a good self-knowledge and self-concept. And ways to develop your self-concept, your vision boards, you visualize, higher self-meditation. Ways to develop your self-knowledge comes from self-exploration and self-awareness. If you're not self-aware, you cannot have true knowledge of self. That's something I always say. If you do not sit with yourself and you're willing to tell yourself the harsh truth, the things that you are capable of doing,
call yourself out.
I swear, because if you're not honest with yourself, you can never know yourself. And then, what else? Self-trust. I've talked about self-trust already. All these things lead eventually to self-trust. How to build a self-trust? You set small goals and achieve it. You know that thing I do, where it's like when we say that,
you celebrate it.
Exactly. When we say we're going to do this today, I'm like, we have to do this today. We have to do this today, because it's teaching your mind to be like, oh, I can trust Temmie. Temmie knows what she's doing, so I can trust Sarah. Sarah knows what she's doing. Exactly. And then you keep to your word. Follow your intuition. When you keep to your word, it's so much easier to trust yourself, basically. When you keep to your word, or when you go back on your word, you are accountable for it, it becomes so much easier to trust yourself. And you validate yourself, because most of the time in this current world, the higher you go, the less validation you get. Especially when your path is not the path that other people are walking. So it might get to a point where you feel like, oh, they're clapping for people, they're not clapping for me. Well, you validate yourself. Create a track record of being true to yourself. So the things you've done that were true to you today, like if you said, today I'm going to work out for 30 minutes, because the person that I see myself becoming works out for 30 minutes, and you did it, write it down, mark it, clap for yourself. Follow your intuition. The more you know yourself, the more you trust yourself, the sharper your intuition gets, because it doesn't get scrambled by the things happening outside of you. Emotional mastery also helps with self-trust, because the more you learn to master your emotions, like, oh, I'm not going to crash out over this, I'm not going to let somebody ruin my day, I'm not going to sometimes I think a crash out is beneficial. But the more you master your emotions, the more you learn to trust yourself. You draw boundaries, helps you to trust yourself. Be kind to yourself when you make mistakes, and take it as a learning opportunity. It also helps to trust yourself. So
I want to ask, will you say that your self-knowledge, self-concept, self-trust, these things should be rooted from a spiritual place.
They're all drawn from your spirit self.
Yeah.
Because I think that now the ego can contribute to it. That's why I'm not necessarily like saying the ego. Because let me see. Let me use myself as an example. My self concept, my ideal self concept is big boss. But that is my ego. That is my. I have very big ego.
That one.
Yeah, I do. And my ego has gotten to a point where I've healed so much that I used to be very unambitious, but I've healed so much to the point where I now have time for ambition in my spirit. I have space for it in my spirit. But that is because my spirit self and my ego work hand in hand.
Hand in hand.
So as much as I understand that the big boss idea is from my ego, my spirit self knows that to be the kind of big boss I'm talking about, I have to be grounded. I have to be, calm. I have to also know when to take make decisions that don't hurt. So it's a blend of, because I don't want to be a big boss that's just a narcissistic, big boss. So it has made me sit with myself even when I make mistakes or when I lash out or I'm not the kindest person, because the idea of big boss I have is kind but grounded. It's kind but firm. So it's a blend of both, I think.
Okay, because for me, I think self-mastery should come from a knowledge of seeing yourself more as a spiritual being than a physical being, because in reality of it, we are all spirit trying to be humans, not humans trying to be spirit, and for me, I think practical ways of mastering the self, true self, is practicing resistance, being intentionally stubborn, because by this you are teaching yourself not to settle for what is presented or offered, because you know and believe that
you
there is
deserve more.
And that's why I said be intentionally stubborn, not an uncalculated stubborness that gives off an unserious, persona.
This
You have to
reminds
be
me.
calculated with your stubbornness. If it's going to subtract from your spirit, if it's going to subtract from who your spirit has identified you to be, you have to be willing to be stubborn and just snap out of it.
It reminds me of this. I saw this lady, I've forgotten her TikTok handle because I left a comment there. She was talking about rebellion and rejection. She was talking about how at a certain point you do not need to rebel when you can just outrightly reject. You're not like, I'm not a baby.
You're not a child.
And I now contributed that. That is so true, because the older I get, the more grounded I get, the more resources I have. The easier it is for me to. An example, my mom says, "Oh, do this." I'm like, I'm not doing it. Not because I'm rebelling, but because I've grown into my own person and there are things I just don't want to do. But as a teenager, I would have been like, "Oh, mommy, fuck everybody." I mean, I was that person. I was the ultimate fuck everybody, fuck everything, and it's still that way. But in a more, I don't need to yell it from the rooftops that I'm rebelling. I'm just not going to do it. And also, that's another thing. Rejection comes from a place of healing, because when you heal, certain reactions do not necessarily just come like that. You're not reactive. That's how I'll put it. Rejection comes from being less reactive, because it's the same thing you're doing as somebody that is rebelling. But this time, you are not dysregulating yourself.
No.
You are keeping yourself in check. You're like, instead of, crashing out and scattering everything, because it's me that will suffer eventually when I crash out and everything has scattered, everybody has gone. It's my body that will be paining me. It's my mouth that will be paining me. It's me that will be wondering, why did I say this? Maybe I should not have said that. I should not. Exactly. But when you heal and become less reactive, it's literally just that firm spiritual stubbornness. I know good do it, and if I don't do it,
nothing is going to happen. It's coming to the realization that what's the worst that can happen?
Honestly,
what's the worst that can happen? And you must also be willing to reject every notion of having to earn it.
Ooh, amen.
Having to, I have to earn this love. I have to earn these resources. You have to reject letting the world put a yoke of hello sinner and needing to be redeemed.
Yeah.
You know the way Christianity is being pushed
Yeah, you
now.
have to push yourself
Everybody
down.
wants to tell you,
Yeah.
like, why do I have to feel bad about myself for
redemption,
for God you are talking about
Yep.
to love me? Why can't I feel good and sufficient and full in myself and be a different expression of that God? Why do I have to feel like a sin, like filth needing to be washed for
because
your
that feeling
message
never ends
to pass?
unnecessarily. Once you implant that feeling in your subconscious that you are not worthy, I'm not worthy, but you're taking me, I'm not the best.
Yeah, like I
you are
have
literally
a major problem with
programming
that.
your spirit to be like, yeah, you are not worthy. You are not worthy.
Because you have to fight against that. To be a master of self, you have to unburden yourself. And
Yeah.
these things are burdens that the world like unconsciously has put on us. We don't even know that we are operating from this standpoint. You feel like you have to earn it, you have to go hard, you feel like I don't feel good enough, I don't. It never ends. And I even think that is a spiritual trap. And I think that if you even look at most of the people that are practicing Christianity, they are not practicing it from a place of self-love. They are practicing it from a place of self-hate, and that is a very major problem, because I will never believe that I am a sin, or I am a sinner, or I need to be washed by some blood before I can qualify for anything.
Baby, I honestly think that is why, not Christianity alone, now religion, Abrahamic religions, because that's what I'm familiar with in this side of the world. I think that is why they attract a lot of narcissists. You see that cycle of putting yourself down, because that's the people get the impression that narcissists are like some self-fulfilled people. But most of the time, if you've been around enough narcissists and you've seen them crash out, and you've seen a narcissist have like a narcissistic meltdown, like a meltdown that is rooted in how you hear the things they say that are rooted in the fact that they do not feel good within themselves, and they outsource it. That is why those Abrahamic religions, they draw those people in, like, oh, you can just be a piece of shit and everything is forgiven. You don't have to pay reparation. I mean, the few mistakes I've made in my life, some of them not even mistakes that were my fault, because I was around people that, as much as sometimes I felt misunderstood by those people, because I was around people that did not feel some type of way about calling me out, I've had to adjust in so many ways. In so many ways, I've had to be like, okay, I don't want to do this again because this and this and this is the repercussion. But in spaces like that, I mean, these are people that have preachers that are, the R words, the P words.
And if you're going to be in those kind of spaces, at least you should be able to recognize that the person that is even bringing this word to you, this person that is telling. You don't just take what people say and run with it.
Question everything.
People are crazy.
Everything.
I don't care if that person is on a pulpit with a mic. We're all made up of past experiences. The experience,
and not everybody's questioning those things.
And so the experiences that form me are different from the experiences that form you. So there are some things that I think that are right. But when I present them to you, look at them as bullshit. So you have to be willing to ask questions. And another reason why this whole Abrahamic religion thing is stressing me out is the fact that you are not supposed to ask questions.
That is always a red flag. If you're in any space where you're not supposed to ask questions, any space, I don't care how secular or how religious or how spiritual, if you're in any space where you are not supposed to ask questions, or where your questions have to be well thought out, or where you are not afforded the opportunity of making mistakes, you are in a cult.
I swear. Or
point blank
you ask and you can't get no answer,
or everybody turns their back on you because you are curious. You are in a cult.
I swear.
Okay, so let's round up. How do we relate all of this to Cedian alchemy? So for me, is the more you master self, the more boundaries you draw, the more self-assured you are, the more self-actualization you achieve, the easier it is to surrender. The easier it is to I've done my own part, whatever it is.
To the universe, the divine.
Flying spaghetti monster, take charge of whatever you believe in. Just take charge. So I think that it is easier to surrender especially like in the process of this transformation, which is Cedian alchemy, which is the the energy of surrender that leads to transformation.
Yeah.
When you are in the process of transforming, when you surrender, it is easier for the process of transforming to happen.
Yeah.
So in that surrender, when you are mastering self, when you're doing all these things that I mentioned, you are basically transforming. So that's why we said the surrender we're talking about is not idle.
No,
It is
it's not
the
an idle surrender.
thing that comes from inside, because most people believe that you outsource your spirituality or you outsource your power. With Cedian alchemy, what I believe is your power is from inward. God is inside of you. You are God. When you draw your power and your strength and your self-concept, your identity and everything from that source, it is so much easier to not feel idle while you're surrendering, and that is the surrender that leads to transformation.
Yeah, because when this your mastery of self is based on spiritual truths about yourself, it's more easy for you to let go.
Yeah.
To know that you are in control to an extent, but in terms of the delivery, in terms
the
of
way it's presented to the world,
you are not in control of that. So it's easier for you to, just believe in the divine.
and you get to trust the person you're surrendering. Because you are the one surrendering yourself. And what are you surrendering? When you master self, you trust that, you're not surrendering nonsense. What you're surrendering is something that has been refined. And because it is refined, when it is projected into the world, it comes out refined.
Yeah, I swear. So it's just so we hope we've been able to
convince you or not to confuse you.
We hope we've been able to help, if it's one or two persons out there, to be able to focus more on the spiritual sides of ourselves. And how can you find spiritual truths about yourself? If I have to drop one advice, I'll say you need to spend time with yourself. Shut up your mind. Now let me help you. Your mind is the loudest voice in your head. That voice that doesn't like you, that one that says mean things to you, that's your mind, because our minds to an extent doesn't like us, and how to hear your spirit is that calm voice, that assuring, reassuring, soft and loving voice. So you have to try to navigate and find your way to that person. We've even done more. So thank you for your time. We love you guys, and we hope next time you'll be part of the next episode. My name is Sarah Dennis.
I'm Temmie Ovwasa.
All right. We love you. Bye.